The massive creature floated through space, its dark scales reflecting the light of distant stars. Military ships kept their distance, their crews watching with fear as the legendary Warbeast passed by their sector. It was bigger than 3 space shuttles combined, with armor stronger than any battleship and claws that could tear through steel like paper. This particular Warbeast had earned a special name among space travelers: the Nightmare. In the past 5 years alone, it had destroyed 3 space stations, 17 military vessels, and countless smaller ships. No one knew exactly what it wanted or why it attacked. The only thing everyone knew was that it couldn't be stopped. Another failed attempt to contain the beast, announced Admiral Rose to the Galactic Council. She stood in the center of the Grand Meeting Hall, surrounded by representatives from 100 different alien species. Our most advanced warships couldn't even get close enough to use their weapons. The council members whispered among themselves. They had never faced such a difficult problem before. The Warbeasts were not natural creatures. They were living weapons created by an ancient civilization that had disappeared thousands of years ago. These beings were meant to be controlled, to serve as guardians and protectors, but no one had ever figured out how. The Blue Star Empire tried using mind control devices, said one council member, his antenna twitching nervously. Their best scientists worked for years on the project. The Warbeast destroyed their research station in less than an hour. The Crystal Hive attempted to trap one in an energy field, added another. They used enough power to run a small planet. The beast broke free in minutes. Admiral Rose nodded grimly. And let's not forget the attempt by the Ancient Order. Their warriors trained for decades in the art of beast mastery. 20 of their finest masters approached a warbeast together. She paused, looking down at her notes. None of them survived. The Nightmare had proven to be the most dangerous of all warbeasts. It seemed to actively seek out populated areas, though it would sometimes ignore smaller settlements. Its attacks followed no pattern that anyone could understand. The beast would suddenly appear near a space station or colony, cause massive destruction, and then disappear into the depths of space. There is something else, Admiral Rose continued. Our deep space sensors have detected changes in its behavior. The Nightmare has begun moving with purpose, following a specific path through the galaxy. She pressed a button, and a holographic map appeared above the council table. A red line showed the beast's trajectory. The council members leaned forward, studying the path. One of them, an elder with silvery skin, suddenly stood up. That course. It leads directly to the outer colonies. There's a newly established settlement in that sector. Yes, Admiral Rose confirmed. A human colony world called New Haven. Population approximately 5,000. They're mostly researchers, farmers, and their families. She looked around the room, her expression serious. The Warbeast will reach their system in less than a month. The council chamber erupted in worried discussions. Humans were among the newest members of the galactic community. They were still considered primitive by many species, with relatively basic space technology and limited defensive capabilities. We cannot allow another massacre, declared the council leader, rising from his seat. This time, we must stop the beast before it reaches its target. I hereby authorize the use of any means necessary. If we cannot control it, then we must destroy it. As the council members voted unanimously to approve this decision, none of them could have imagined that the solution to their problem was already waiting on that small human colony, and it would come from the most unexpected source. A small boy who knew nothing about the terror of the Warbeasts or their infamous reputation. The Nightmare continued its journey through space, moving steadily toward New Haven, while behind it, the greatest fleet ever assembled began to gather. The stage was set for either humanity's greatest tragedy or its most surprising triumph. Life on New Haven was different from Earth in many small ways. The sky had a slight purple tint, the grass was bluer than green, and the days were a bit longer. But for 6-year-old Tom, who had never seen Earth, this was simply home. He sat on the front porch of his family's research station, watching the strange local animals that his parents studied. His favorite was a six-legged creature that looked like a mix between a deer and a rabbit. Tom called them hoppers, and they often came close to the house early in the morning. "Tom, breakfast is ready," his mother called from inside. She was busy looking through data on her computer screen while putting food on the table. Dr. Lisa Reed was one of the colony's lead scientists, studying the wildlife of New Haven alongside her husband. Tom's father, Dr. James Reed, was already at the table, writing notes about yesterday's observations. "You won't believe what the sensors picked up last night," he said as Tom sat down. "We found a new species in the northern forest. It's bigger than anything we've seen so far." "Can we go see it?" Tom asked excitedly, his eyes lighting up. He loved going on research trips with his parents. Before either parent could answer, the colony's emergency alarm started blaring. The sound was loud and unfamiliar. Tom had only heard it during monthly tests. Never like this. His father's computer screen lit up with urgent messages. His mother quickly moved to read them, her face growing pale. "James, it's coming here," she whispered, but Tom could still hear her. "Everyone to the community center immediately." The colony leader's voice boomed through the speakers placed around the settlement. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Tom watched as his parents quickly grabbed their emergency bags, always kept ready by the door. His mother picked up Tom's own small backpack, the one with his favorite toy dog inside. They had practiced this before, but something felt different this time. His parents seemed scared, not just serious like during the drills. At the community center, almost all 5,000 colonists gathered in the main hall. Tom saw his friend Mike from school, but before he could wave, the colony leader stepped onto the stage. "We have received word from the Galactic Council," the leader announced, his voice steady but grave. "A Class X threat is approaching our system. For those unfamiliar with the classification, this is a warbeast, one of the most dangerous creatures known to exist." Gasps filled the room. Tom didn't understand why everyone was so afraid. He had learned about many dangerous animals from his parents, but they always said that most creatures were only dangerous if you didn't understand them. "The military will arrive in 20 days, the leader continued, "but the warbeast will reach us in 15. We are organizing an immediate evacuation. All non-essential personnel and families will leave on the first transport ships." Tom's mother held him closer. "We'll be on the first ship out," she whispered to his father. "The research can wait." But Tom wasn't listening anymore. His attention had drifted to the large screen behind the colony leader, showing an image of the approaching warbeast. While others saw a monster, Tom saw something else entirely. The way it moved, the shape of its head, the way its tail swayed. It reminded him of the videos his parents had shown him of Earth animals, especially the big dogs that used to help ancient humans hunt. As the colony rushed to prepare for evacuation, no one noticed the thoughtful look on Tom's face. No one realized that this small boy, who had grown up studying animals with his scientist parents, was seeing something in the warbeast that all the military experts and alien scientists had missed for centuries. The next few days would change everything, not just for New Haven, but for the entire galaxy's understanding of these ancient creatures. And it would all begin because a child saw past the fear that blinded everyone else. The evacuation of New Haven was happening faster than anyone had expected. Within 3 days, half of the colony's 5,000 people had already left on emergency transport ships. Those who remained worked quickly to pack up important equipment and research data. Tom watched from his bedroom window as another transport ship took off, its engines glowing bright against the purple morning sky. He was supposed to be packing his toys, but something else had caught his attention. The colony's security screens were showing the warbeast's approach. It was much closer now. "Tom, are you ready?" his mother called, entering his room. "Our transport leaves in 2 hours." She stopped when she saw him staring at the security feed. "Don't worry, sweetie. We'll be long gone before it gets here." But Tom wasn't worried. He was curious. "Mom, look," he pointed at the screen. "It's moving just like the hoppers do when they're looking for food." His mother paused, looking at the screen more carefully. As a scientist, she had learned to listen when someone noticed a pattern, even if that someone was her 6-year-old son. The warbeast's movement did seem familiar somehow. Before she could think more about it, the colony's alarm system blared again. "Emergency! Emergency!" The speakers boomed. "The warbeast has increased its speed. All remaining colonists proceed to emergency shelters immediately." Tom's father burst into the room. "It's coming much faster than they predicted. We need to get to the shelter now." He grabbed Tom's emergency bag while his mother picked up Tom. They ran with other colonists toward the underground shelter. The morning sky had turned dark as storm clouds gathered, a common weather pattern on New Haven. Through gaps in the clouds, they could see something massive moving in the upper atmosphere. The ground shook as the warbeast entered New Haven's atmosphere. Its massive body cast a shadow larger than the entire colony. People screamed and ran faster toward the shelter. In the chaos, Tom stumbled and dropped his favorite toy dog. "My toy," he cried, turning back. "Leave it," his father shouted, but Tom had already slipped from his mother's grasp. He ran back through the crowd toward his fallen toy. "Tom, come back," his mother screamed, but her voice was lost in the noise of the panicking crowd. Before his parents could reach him, the shelter doors began to close automatically, a safety protocol that couldn't be stopped. Tom ran through the empty streets, finally finding his toy near the colony's farm fields. As he picked it up, the ground shook again. He looked up and froze. The warbeast had landed in the clearing just beyond the fields. It was enormous, bigger than any building in the colony. Its scales shimmered with colors Tom had never seen before, and its eyes glowed like distant stars. Everyone had described it as terrifying. But up close, Tom saw something different. The creature's head was lowered, its nostrils flaring as it smelled the air. Its tail moved slowly from side to side, just like the colony's censor animals did when they were exploring new territory. Most importantly, it wasn't attacking anything. It was just looking around. Tom remembered what his parents always taught him about animals. Most creatures act aggressive because they're scared or don't understand what's happening around them. Without fear clouding his judgment, Tom could see signs that everyone else had missed. The way the warbeast held its head, how it moved its feet carefully to avoid crushing things, how it kept looking around. It wasn't hunting. It was searching for something. Standing there in the empty colony, holding his toy dog, Tom did something that would be talked about across the galaxy for centuries to come. Instead of running away, he took a step forward. The warbeast's massive head turned toward him, its star-bright eyes focusing on the tiny human child who, for the first time in its long existence, showed no fear at all. The warbeast and the small boy stared at each other in the empty colony. Rain began to fall softly from New Haven's purple sky, creating small puddles between them. Tom held his toy dog tightly as he watched the massive creature, noticing how its scales changed color slightly in the rain, just like the wings of the flying creatures his parents studied. Inside the colony's emergency shelter, the security screen showed what was happening. Tom's parents pushed through the crowd, desperate to see if their son was safe. When they saw him standing in front of the warbeast, his mother almost fainted. "We have to do something," his father shouted, but the colony leader held him back. "The doors are sealed for everyone's safety," the leader explained sadly. "Opening them now could endanger everyone here." But on the security screens, something unexpected was happening. The warbeast, known throughout the galaxy as the Nightmare, wasn't attacking. It was watching Tom with what looked like curiosity. Tom remembered all the times he'd helped his parents study new animals. They always said the most important thing was to let the animal know you weren't a threat. Slowly, he sat down on the wet ground, just like he did when watching the hoppers. The warbeast tilted its massive head, its star-bright eyes blinking in confusion. No one had ever reacted to it this way before. Usually, There was screaming, running, or shooting. But this tiny creature just sat there, looking up at it with interest. "Hi," Tom said softly, the way he greeted new animals. "I'm Tom." He held up his toy dog. "This is Buddy. He's not real, but he looks like the dogs that lived on Earth. My parents showed me videos of them." The warbeast lowered its head closer to the ground, bringing it down to about 10 feet above Tom. Its nostrils flared, smelling both the boy and the toy. In the shelter, everyone watched in amazement. "Look at its body language," Tom's mother whispered, her scientist's mind starting to work despite her fear. "It's displaying curiosity behavior, just like when we observe the hoppers investigating something new." Tom noticed something else too. The warbeast's tail was moving in a slow, steady pattern, left to right, just like in the videos he'd seen of happy dogs. Without thinking about it, he smiled and did what came naturally when meeting a new animal. He held out his hand, palm up, the way his parents taught him. The warbeast stared at the tiny offered hand. In all its centuries of existence, through all its battles and destruction, no one had ever made such a simple, peaceful gesture. Slowly, carefully, it lowered its enormous head until its nose was just a few feet from Tom's hand. Inside the shelter, people held their breath. The colony's security chief was ready to trigger the emergency defense systems, even though everyone knew they would be useless against a warbeast. But Tom wasn't afraid. He could see what the grown-ups couldn't. The warbeast's eyes weren't angry or scary. They looked lonely. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The warbeast made a sound then, not the terrifying roar that had destroyed space stations, but a low, rumbling purr that reminded Tom of the big cats he'd seen in Earth videos. Its head came down those last few feet, and very gently, it touched its nose to Tom's small hand. The touch lasted only a moment, but it changed everything. In that simple contact between a small human hand and an ancient living weapon, centuries of fear and violence began to melt away. Tom smiled wider and did something that would become legendary across the galaxy. Still sitting in the rain, still holding his toy dog, he looked up at the mighty warbeast and said the words that would change history. "Can you sit?" The entire colony held its breath as they watched the security screens. No one could believe what they had just heard. A small boy asking the galaxy's most feared creature to sit. Some people thought they had misheard. Others wondered if they were dreaming. But what happened next made everyone question everything they thought they knew about warbeasts. The massive creature tilted its head, looking at Tom with those star-bright eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly and carefully, the warbeast began to lower its body. Its huge legs folded beneath it, and its tail curled around its side. Within seconds, the most dangerous being in known space was sitting quietly in the rain, looking down at a 6-year-old boy. "Good boy," Tom said happily, just like he'd seen people do with dogs in the old Earth videos. The warbeast's tail moved faster, making a sound like distant thunder as it hit the ground. In the shelter, Tom's mother grabbed her computer tablet with shaking hands. "Look at this," she exclaimed, pulling up ancient files about Earth animals. The tail movement, the body position. It's exactly like the social behaviors of domesticated Earth dogs. "That's impossible," the colony's security chief said. "This is a warbeast. It's destroyed entire space stations. It can't be domesticated." But Tom wasn't done. Still sitting in the rain, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a snack, a protein bar he'd saved from breakfast. He unwrapped it and broke off a small piece. "Would you like a treat?" he asked, holding up the piece of food. "You have to be gentle, okay?" The adults in the shelter nearly had heart attacks as they watched the warbeast slowly lower its massive head. Its mouth, filled with teeth larger than human arms, opened slightly. With more care than anyone thought possible from such a huge creature, it took the tiny piece of food from Tom's hand. "The ancient records," one of the colony's historians spoke up, his voice filled with wonder. We always thought the warbeasts were weapons, but what if we were wrong? What if they were meant to be companions? Tom's father nodded slowly. Think about it. Why would an advanced civilization create living weapons that couldn't be controlled? But if they were meant to be companions, like Earth's dogs, then they've been acting aggressively because everyone's been treating them like weapons. Tom's mother finished. They've been scared and defensive, not naturally violent. Outside, Tom had stood up and was patting the warbeast's nose. "You're a good boy," he said softly. "You've been all alone, haven't you? That's why you keep looking for people. You're trying to find friends." The warbeast made that purring sound again, softer this time. Its eyes, which had terrified countless space travelers, were now gentle and calm. The colony leader watched all this in amazement. He pressed a button on his communicator, connecting to the Galactic Council's emergency channel. "This is New Haven Colony," he said, his voice still shaking slightly. "Cancel the military response. I repeat, cancel the military response. We've made first peaceful contact with a warbeast, and you're not going to believe how we did it." As the rain began to ease, more people gathered at the shelter's viewing windows. They watched as Tom taught the warbeast another command: "Lay down." The mighty creature followed the simple instruction, carefully stretching out on the wet ground, looking for all the world like an oversized, scaly dog. Everything we thought we knew about them was wrong, the colony's head scientist said, shaking his head in wonder. All our advanced technology, all our military might, and in the end, it took a child's kindness to show us the truth. The news was already spreading across the galaxy. A human child had done what no one else could. He had discovered the true nature of the warbeasts, not through force or technology, but through something much more powerful, simple, innocent kindness. News traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Within days, every planet, space station, and colony had seen the recordings from New Haven. The images of a small human boy sitting with the feared nightmare, teaching it commands like a pet, changed everything people thought they knew about warbeasts. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. This time, instead of military officers, they invited Tom and his parents to speak. Tom sat in the huge council chamber. The warbeast, which he had named Star because of its glowing eyes, curled up behind his chair like an enormous guard dog. "The boy has done more than tame one warbeast," Admiral Rose announced to the council. "He's given us a new way to understand all of them." Tom's mother stepped forward, showing her research on the main screen. "We've confirmed that warbeasts share many behaviors with Earth's domesticated animals, especially dogs. They're not weapons. They're companion creatures, designed to bond with and protect those they trust." The council members watched in amazement as Tom demonstrated more commands. Star responded perfectly to stay, come, and even roll over, though the last one made the whole chamber shake a bit. "But why do they attack our ships and stations?" one council member asked. Tom's father explained. "Imagine you're a friendly dog, but everyone who sees you screams and shoots at you. Eventually, you'd start defending yourself. The warbeasts have been alone and afraid for thousands of years, looking for companions but finding only enemies." The evidence was clear. Other warbeasts across the galaxy had started showing similar behavior changes. When ships stopped attacking them, and instead tried Tom's gentle approach, the creatures responded with curiosity instead of aggression. A group of human children from different colonies were the first to try Tom's methods with other warbeasts. Under careful supervision, they approached the creatures with kindness and simple commands. To everyone's amazement, it worked every time. The ancient civilization that created them. The council's historian spoke up. "They must have lived very differently from us. Perhaps they understood something about companionship that we have forgotten." Tom didn't understand all the big words and complicated ideas the adults were discussing. He was too busy teaching Star how to play fetch with a specially made metal ball the size of a small car. The sight of the feared warbeast happily chasing a ball through space near the council station made many people smile for the first time in years. The Galactic Council made some big decisions that day. All military actions against warbeasts would stop immediately. A new research center would be built on New Haven to study and understand the creatures better. Tom and his parents would lead a program to teach others how to properly interact with warbeasts. The creatures would be officially reclassified as companion beings instead of weapons. But the biggest change was in how people saw the warbeasts. Space travelers who used to run in fear now watched in wonder as the creatures helped ships in trouble, using their strength to rescue damaged vessels or guide them to safety. Back on New Haven, more warbeasts began arriving. They seemed to share news among themselves, and soon the colony became known as a safe place where they could find friends instead of enemies. Tom sat on the colony's observation deck, watching Star play with another warbeast in the planet's atmosphere. The two massive creatures looked like they were dancing among the clouds. "What do you think they were really made for?" a scientist asked Tom's mother. She smiled, watching her son wave at the playing warbeasts. "Maybe they were made to remind us of something important, that sometimes the greatest power isn't in weapons or technology, but in being kind enough to see past our fears and make a friend." 10 years had passed since the day a small boy asked a warbeast to sit. Tom was now 16, and New Haven had changed beyond recognition. What was once a small research colony had become the galaxy's premier center for warbeast studies and training. The morning sun cast a purple glow over the massive training fields where Star, the first befriended warbeast, watched over a group of younger ones. They were learning from human trainers, mostly children and teenagers who had followed in Tom's footsteps. "Remember," Tom told a group of new students, "they're not pets, and they're not weapons. They're friends who choose to help us." He stood tall now, but still carried the same toy dog in his pocket that he'd had on that rainy day 10 years ago. Star lifted its massive head, watching as a new warbeast arrived in the atmosphere. This happened almost every week now. Word had spread through their kind that New Haven was a place of safety and friendship. The new arrival landed carefully in the designated area, its movements cautious but curious. A young girl named Mary stepped forward from the training group. She was 8 years old and had been preparing for this moment for months. Tom walked beside her, ready to help if needed, but he knew she probably wouldn't need his assistance. "Hi there," Mary said to the new warbeast, holding out her hand just like Tom had taught her. "Welcome to New Haven." The new warbeast, like all the others before it, recognized the gesture of friendship. Within minutes, it was sitting calmly while Mary talked to it softly. "They never get tired of watching this," Tom's mother said, standing with his father at the observation post. They had both become leaders in the field of warbeast research, but they always said their son remained the best teacher. The changes hadn't just affected New Haven. Across the galaxy, warbeasts had become known as protectors rather than destroyers. They helped guard space lanes from pirates, rescued ships in distress, and even assisted in building new space stations. Their strength, once feared, was now appreciated as a gift. Star, who still followed Tom everywhere, had become something of a legend. The creature once known as the Nightmare was now famous for teaching younger warbeasts how to be gentle with humans. It had even learned to write simple messages by arranging large metal blocks, though its favorite word to spell out was still treat. That afternoon, Tom sat with Star on their favorite hill overlooking the colony. The massive creature had barely aged in 10 years, and scientists thought warbeasts might live for thousands of years. Other warbeasts flew overhead, playing complex games with their human friends that involved catching and throwing special giant balls between the ground and the upper atmosphere. "You know what, Star?" Tom said, patting the creature's nose. "Mom says that sometimes the best discoveries happen when we stop being afraid long enough to see what's really there." Star made a gentle rumbling sound that Tom had long ago learned meant agreement. The warbeast's star-bright eyes looked at the toy dog that Tom still carried, the same one from that first rainy day. They had both come a long way from that moment. A small alarm beeped on Tom's communicator. "Time for the afternoon training session," he said, standing up. want to help teach the new kids. Stars stood up eagerly, careful as always not to move too quickly. Together, they headed back to the training fields where new students waited to learn the simple truth that had changed the galaxy. Sometimes the strongest connection comes not from force or technology, but from a moment of simple kindness between two very different beings. As they walked, Tom smiled at the thought that somewhere out there, the ancient civilization that created the Warbeasts must be very happy. Their companions had finally found their way home, not to their original masters, but to new friends who had learned to see them with the innocent eyes of a child. Behind them, the setting sun turned New Haven's sky to deep purple, while above, warbeasts and humans played together among the stars. The galaxy had changed, all because a little boy had been brave enough to be kind.